Since the fall of the king in Nepal, the country is ruled by communists, with only a few interruptions. In September 2018, I conducted an interview with Yubaraj Chaulagain in the building of the Nepal Communist Party in Kathmandu. Chaulagain is a member of the Communist Central Committee and responsible for international relations. From the 40-year-old politician, I wanted to know what problems there are today in Nepal and to what extent the lives of people has improved after the fall of the king. In 1996, an uprising against the caste system and the king began in Nepal. The leader of this uprising was the Maoist Communist Party. In 2006, the Maoists militarily controlled 80% of the country. In the same year, after a general strike, King Gyanendra abdicated. In December, you have the last parliamentary elections, and the result of these elections is that the two communist parties have the majority in the parliament of Nepal. What does it mean for the situation in Nepal?
Main issues of the political and social transformation of country. Simply, main issues are to transform the economic or financial situation of each and every people of the country. That is the main issue, and there are so many other issues like the national sovereignty of the country, to uphold high, to eradicate all kind of discrimination that is here within the society of the country, in the caste system, in the status of the economic and the regional basis. So these all are the stops we have to fix out. There are mainly four things we are trying to focus. The discrimination based on the classes, discrimination based on the class, discrimination based on the region. Region means capital and the little far areas of the country, and the discrimination based on the gender. So these are the things we are just trying to fix out.
It is possible that the old forces come back to power when they see you can't fulfill your demands, your proposals, your aims. Because I mean, to change a society is very difficult, and perhaps there are forces which don't like you.
Yes, there are some forces. They suddenly try to come back to rule again, but this is very difficult for them to come back as a ruling power again, because we have a new constitution, and we came here to the power from the popular votes of the people by constitution. So if they come again to compete to the Communist Party, this is quite difficult for them. This is not impossible, because if we did not do very well, we cannot perform well. They have the alternatives also, but we are trying to do the best.
For example, this is a problem of corruption, and now you control the state. If the state makes some mistakes, for example, now we have this case of rape of a girl from policemen, and I mean the responsibility now lay in your hands. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
This is very difficult.
Yeah, that's right. The people, if you look very without taking any side, in the neutral side, the people can see that the situation is not deteriorating than before. We had some kind of problem like this, corruption, and some kind of social evils like corruption and other kind of social problems. But this government is trying to do its best to tackle these all kind of problems. And if you talk about the corruption, there is a very powerful authority to control the corruption in the country by the constitution, and this is doing best. Some
what is this institution?
This is CIA, that is the authority to control the corruption. And this is trying best.
It's a new authority, new build.
No, this is not new build, but this is old one, and this is being more powerful. And this is the constitutional organ of the country. And by the political level also, Prime Minister has told many times that he will show the zero tolerance towards corruption, and he has warned many times, that the corruption, will be, punished, according to the constitution, and there will be no, space for the people who are trying to do some kind of corruption. And I guess, the political system of Nepal, especially the bureaucratic, order of Nepal, had some kind of, habits to, have the different governments within a year before. But this time they are, I guess they are, working under the very strong government, and there is not so serious issues, of corruption these days, I guess. And because government on the political level and the authority for the anti-corruption, from the administrative level, they both are trying their best. And if you talk about other kind of problem, like you just told that rapes and other kind of these problems, Nepal police, has done good, better, to control such kind of problems. But this is not only the problem of the police or the government, but this is problem that has been some kind of issues for very long in the society. So I guess that will continuously decreasing down. So
you mean the role of the woman in society is not so strong? Historical, traditional, the woman plays a second role after the man. Do you mean this?
Yeah, in the history, women, put as a second, kind of citizen.
So if a woman go to the police, she is already not in the best situation, because the police sitting man, and they will say, you look so nice. It's your own guilty that you was raped, something like this.
Yeah, this is not the situation exactly in the country, but that had been, in the history. But women are, if you look in the, political situation of Nepal, we have a very good, inclusive, constitution. We have 33%, representation of the women.
In the parliament?
Yeah, in the parliament. And we have, female president in the country. We had once we had Chief Justice and Speaker of the Parliament also, female from.
And to this actual rape issue, the president say something. You remember?
No, president did not speak. I guess I have no idea about his public speaking about that. But this is a very serious issue, and media, political parties and government and administration, all are trying to, decrease down these all kind of issues. Yes. So within 10 years, Maoist Party then did a lot, to change the country in the, political field, especially as you mentioned, starting by, handicapped people. I mean, very few, people below 100, in number. That had been, a force of millions, in the country within a decade, in the People's War time, and that changed, not only changed the political scenario of the country, that took very strong, that brought very strong aspiration of the people from the very lower level. I am talking about the 20 years back, period. I am talking about that time, and government try to control that time, and that was a very huge contradiction, between the government and the then rebellion force. But the government did not do any proper action against that force that time, and that emerged as a big major force, major political party of the country. After the peace process, we went to the election, and Maoist Party came as a single largest party then, before 10 years, and chairman of then rebellion force Prachanda became the prime minister of the country, and Constituent Assembly promulgated the new constitution, and that is now the constitution of the country. So the People's War, or the communist movement of that time, changed the regime of the country. So that was very important for the recent history of the country.
I read that the United States in the beginning, the 2006, 2007, they don't want to accept the communist ministers. So the minister of your party, who was in the government, they don't want to talk with them. And the United States now accept the communist government of Nepal.
Yeah, they are accepting.
Accepting?
Yeah, because this is the communist government by the election. This is the communist government, under the constitution. This is the communist government, that recognize the worldwide principle of the democracy, modern democracy. So there is no problem now. Yeah, that time United States especially, tried to blame, for the then Maoist, party, leaders and ministers and cadres of that party, but that already, removed that kind of their tag. So there is no problem now.
And the business world of Nepal, how is the relation between the Communist Party and the Nepal business?
Yeah, we will try to make some kind of, agricultural industry, agricultural industry, and you have already just mentioned that there is a huge potentiality for the tourism industry, and Nepal is a very good place for the hydropower generation production.
So
hydropower, electricity, water, electricity. So these are the some scopes of Nepal for the production and industrialization.
So you try to find a good connection to the national Nepal capitalists to together to build up the economy of Nepal.
In this period, we are in the government, and we will welcome all the investors from everywhere, but we will not accept any kind of conditions, that will be harmful for the country, for the people of Nepal. So if somebody or some other kind of industries or companies are willing to be here to invest in certain area, we will welcome them, and we will be with them to facilitate.
What is the more realistic, from which countries you expect some investors?
We have many investors from, especially, India, from China also, and some kind of, other industries from the Western investors also, I hear from, from Eastern Asias, like Japan,
From Germany?
Sorry?
From Germany, not?
I'm not sure from Germany. Yeah. They have some kind of, INGOs. Yeah, they are doing from the INGOs, but I'm not sure about the.
And these NGOs, that you have good contact with NGOs, or it's you see NGOs like instrument to influence in Nepal?
Yeah, we have a mixed kind of, feelings and, mixed kind of, feelings about the NGOs. But NGOs are doing under the, government's rule. They are following the, government's direction. So there is no any kind of, complaints against the NGOs officially. But, talking about some NGOs, especially, they are trying to, especially some INGOs, they are just trying to spread out some kind of, contradictions among the, castes of the society, trying to change the religion like this.
For example?
For example.
From Hindu to Christianity or something?
Yeah, like this.
Yes, this is.
Yeah.
I think
So,
in poor countries, some Christian groups are very active. From Western countries, they use this situation when the people don't see any
options.
hope,
Oh, yeah.
and they are
Simply
ready for a radical change to go to another direction of religion. Yes.
Yeah, some kind of scenarios were here also, but these days government of Nepal is taking seriously to change the religion by force.
In the time of your revolution, of the liberation war against the kingdom, in the West media, in German media, you can read something like Maoists terrorists. They want with any. They try to change the state, and they don't look on the murder people for this aim. And in Europe, nobody, very few people understand how can these theoretics of Marxism-Leninism, including Stalin and Mao Zedong, can be in the modern time important people. And now you are on the government, and you have Stalin and Mao Zedong. It's really also for Western left is astonishing. Can you say something about this?
Oh yes, Maoist is not only one single party in the government now, but if you see, there is no Maoist, there is no UML. There is a unified party, Nepal Communist Party. So Nepal Communist Party has its vision, to change the socio-political, economic situation of the country. Yes, we had, our own histories before. We two parties had, Maoist took part in the, insurgency at that time, and UML was, not taking part on the insurgency, or he was not taking up the guns at that time. So we had our own histories, but we have a common understanding that what we did in the past, that was our, capital, that is our strength, because that was the cause, what, changed the society, what changed the politics, what
and
changed...
the people honored this. The people honored this.
Yeah, people honored because, they, recognized, they just gave the mandate to the party, because we had not declared the unity of the party that time. We had just make a coalition for the alliance for the election. That was the electoral election,
But
and after the election we declared the unity of the party. So that was the I guess that is the mandate of the people to be united, these both the parties. So this is the situation. And for the governments, these times, priority, if you ask me, we are the socialists now, we are communist, and we want an immediate socialism in Nepal. And this is an interesting thing in Nepal, that by constitution Nepal is a socialist country, and all the parties, especially major parties of Nepal, Nepali Congress or Nepal Communist Party, both are the socialist parties of Nepal. They have their own kind of angle and focus point, but
what does it mean, socialist country? It's in the constitution now.
yeah.
But what does it mean, socialist? It does mean that the state owned the transportation system, the main industry, or what does it mean? Or does it mean only social justice?
This kind of all kind of combination, I guess. This is not defined by constitution, but constitution says that Nepal is a socialist country, and what is socialism particularly, the definition may be different for the political parties, because we as a communist, we want the definition, as you are just trying to mention. And there are some kind of other parties, they just claim them socialist, but they are in favor of the other kind of definition of the socialism than us. So there are some kind of contradictions. Yeah, certainly there are some kind of contradictions, but for us, we will bring a strong state. Strong means state with perfect capability to allow some kind of social security funds to the people. State which has perfect capability to make some kind of infrastructures on the country, like roadways, railways, connectivity, like power grid, this kind of all things we want to do. And we have some kind of priorities like health, care system for the people, education system for the people, old age people, children's, women's. So
can I ask you, you take part in this conflict, in the revolutionary conflict?
Yeah, personally I was there.
You was there was a weapon in the hand?
Yes. Yes, I was there.
You was a soldier, or you was a free
political, I was there as a political advisor to the soldiers that time, and that was called political commissar.
Commissar.
Yeah, political commissars to then People's Liberation Army.
And do you think 17,000 people died in this war? This is rather much people. Do you think that there was no other way to change the society? I mean, these 17,000 people who died and somebody disappeared. There was no other way to change the society.
Yeah, for that time there was no other way, because by then constitution, if some party had even 2/3 majority, they could do nothing. They could change no constitution, to remove the kingship from the country. They could do nothing to remove from the parliamentary democracy, like at times. So there was a constitutional obligation. So to overthrow the constitution, the raising up with the guns was must for that time. And if there was no insurgency, no Maoist party, to take the guns against then regime, there would be no political change in the country, this time.
There were some, did you some mistakes?
Mistakes?
Mistakes. I mean, did you, for
Yes.
example, you killed,
Yes.
your soldiers killed some police officers, some, perhaps some people who don't want to go with you, or some people who don't want to give money to you. You understand what I mean?
So, you know, particularly there are so many cases that our party confessed publicly, you know, that is the mistake from the side of the party, you know, that is not according to the, you know, party's, you know, principle. So party has confessed many times publicly, you know, for the many cases, but politically, you know, that times, you know, all kind of, you know, incidents was, you know, taken as a responsibility, you know, as a moral responsibility from the leadership of that time. So there were some kind of mistakes also, that is true.
And the other side also make mistakes. I mean, the police, there are mistakes on both sides.
Yeah, they did mistakes, and they did a lot of mistakes, you know, than insurgents. So then, you know, commander, or then, you know, main leader of the political stream, the king, was abolished because he was doing mistake after mistakes. So our leadership, the Communist Party, confessed, you know, for the little mistakes. They did not confess. So, you know, they collapsed, and we are here. The Maoist Party was the third largest party of the parliament in after 2000, you know, of Nepal. That was the first parliament after the Panchayat resigned, you know, that time. So they, you know, they knew very well that there is no way, you know, by constitution they can do nothing, you know, though they were in the parliament that time, you know, the force, though there was a split, you know, on the force who were in the parliament that time, the Communist Party, the third largest party of then parliament. So they came to the, you know, came with the guns because of the provision of the constitution, you know. So that was the first reason, you know, after the, you know, raising up of the guns. And second one, I guess, is the, you know, some kind of, you know, this situation of the country, especially, you know, the poverty of the people, you know, the, you know, such kind of, you know, unemployment of the peoples, you know, the discrimination, you know, among the so many ladders in the society. So this all kind of, you know, exploitation and this whole kind of discriminations led the people towards the, you know, violent struggle. I had visited, you know, some countries of Europe, like your country, Belgium, you know, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Switzerland. I have visited these countries also, even in Australia also I have visited.
Australia?
Yeah. And, you know, in the conversation, the leaders talk like communists, you know. In the official documents and in the offices, in the flags, in the official, you know, some kind of pictures, you know, documents, there is no any sign of communists. So I asked to the comrades, you know, of Europe, what is this, you know, and they were just saying, you know, the comments like you just mentioned to me. You know, yeah, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, especially, and some kind of collapse of the Eastern, you know, Europe's socialist, you know, governments, there were, you know, big problems to the communists who were there still. But for us, there is not such kind of, you know, complications, because there is no, you know, political, you know, struggle, either the small or the, you know, bigger one of the Nepal's, you know, political arena, where the communists did not took part. Every, you know, political change of Nepal is, you know, happened because of the communists of the Nepal. You know, with the communists of the Nepal, without the communists of the Nepal, there is no change at all. You know, in the whole history. You know, there is
And
no
when the
any
people,
kind.
when the people in Western countries ask you why you have Stalin in your pictures, how you answer? Here, Stalin made gulags. He deported many people to Siberia. He killed some Soviet officers at the beginning of the Second World War. How you react on these critics?
Yeah, the question of Stalin is always a question of contradictions, questions of debate, like within the communist movement also. For us, we take Stalin as a comrade, but he has committed many mistakes also during his tenure of the presidency of the party leader. Especially there were some serious mistakes taken by him during his tenure of the leader of the state, but still he did very good contribution to the world. Especially he was one who did a very important role to conquer to the Nazis. So he was one who make a Soviet Union strong. Despite all kind of sanctions, all kinds of these things, and he did a very good contribution to the communist literature also. So that's why we take him as a comrade, but he has some kind of mistakes. For then Maoists, we synthesize that he had 30% mistakes, and he had other remained 70%. He was good enough. So that is the evaluation of the Stalin by us.
Can you? I think many people in the West they will think perhaps that your party is instrument of China, for example. Your party perhaps get some ideological influence or some weapons in the time of revolution. Are you really a national orientated party, or are you very connected to China?
No, that is a very wrong perception. We are a real nationalist. We stood and we stand on only on our feet. There is no other any kind of invasion, any kind of influence, either from China or from India.
But Chinese invite you for congresses, for some meetings, for some cultural events or not?
Yeah, we have a good relationship, with the Communist Party of China, and we frequently go to China, and we go more than frequent to India than that of China. So this is baseless.
Can you say something about China want to build this new Silk Road? It's a strategic project from China through Eurasia to Europe, to the west.
Europe, Africa, and Asia. Yeah.
Yes, and what role will play Nepal in this plan? And is there some big projects planned or not?
Yes, sorry.
If you take part in this Silk Road, India will be criticize you. It will be a conflict. So
Nepal is a part of already Nepal signed as a part of Silk Road. So we'll be there with Silk Road, and we guess Nepal.
And 1 year ago you signed this official document.
Yeah, Nepal has already signed a year before on Silk Road.
And it was no problem. I mean, in the political elite of Nepal, there was no contradictions.
No, at all. This is not seen here. In Nepal, there is a
And the United States don't want to block this taking part because it's a strategic question.
Yeah, I don't want to take the name of any nations, but yes, there were some interest that Nepal would not go with the Silk Road project. But Nepal ourselves, we decided that this is for the Nepal's interest, so we can take much benefit for our nation, because we were you know, for the very long time of the history, we did a lot of, business. We did a lot of, international trade and all other kind of, international relations from the land of India, because we are, sandwiched basically between two countries. But this is, if you go deeper, we are surrounded, from three directions by India. From south, east and west part, that is India, and we have China only in the northern border. So there is a very, very tough geography on the border of China. You are aware of that. So Nepal is, practically, Nepal, always, was like dependent to India. So each and every people, majority of the people of Nepal, always tried, they dreamed to, be equally connected with both the countries, because China is a very big economy, very big country, and India is also a very good friend to us, and very big country, very big democracy in the world. So we want to make a very good, relation to both the countries.
Is there any concrete project planned? Some German newspapers wrote that there is planned a tunnel from China to Nepal for railway. Is this a really project, or it's only some ideas?
Yeah, this is a project. Basically every projects come from preliminary ideas, and that there were ideas, but this is converting to the projects. Some kind of experts are trying to make a DPR for that project, but this is not finally finished yet.
But you have no railway to China.
No.
You have only railways to India.
No, basically we have a very few kilometers of the railways to India, very few kilometers, I guess, but not to China because of the very tough geography to the Chinese border, and this is expected that within a decade we will have railway from both sides, from China and from India.
You want?
Yeah.
But
we want this.
Costs very much money. But I think China. I had the impression China has this money and they can build it. It's a question of political.
Yeah, we are talking both the countries, China and India, to bring the railways from both sides.
And
India
Nepal,
and China.
Nepal is not part of the Shanghai Cooperation.
Nepal is an observer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nepal is not the member of the Shanghai Cooperation group.
Can you talk about the question of religion? Because I think religion is very important for Nepal. You have Hindu and Buddhism and other religions.
Other religions also.
And what is your point of your party? I mean, you are friendly to religions, or you are anti-religion? You say religion is opium for the people.
The Marx, famous doctrine of Marx.
Or you say we are this question liberal. What is it?
We are not anti-religion. We are with the people, and we think that this is a person's right, to choose the religion.
You never.
We will never intervene.
And you already in the violent struggle in the 90s, you also don't argue against
No.
against religion.
No, never. We were secular, We were secular always, and we are, as a communist, as a the ruling party of the country, as the largest party of the country. We are never, against the religion. But we are not, as a party, we are not holding any kind of religion with us. We are friendly to all the religions.
You're taking part in some official manifestations, some festivities, religious festivities. Your party leaders go to these events or not?
Yeah, if the organizers invite, our leaders go to each and every, religions,
And
festivals.
you, for example, you by yourself, you are a religion or not?
No, I'm not.
And
I'm
your
secular.
parents?
Yeah, I'm from Hindu family.
Hindu.
Yeah, but personally, I'm not any, committed to any religion. I'm free.
In the time of the struggle with the police and the government, I read you have many regions, some self-ruled communities.
Oh yes.
People power. You have some also some medicine for poor people, for some doctors who went by feet through the from village to village.
That's right.
I mean, these elements of new society, and for example, that women take a weapon
Oh yeah.
for taking part in the revolution. I mean, these elements of new society, something of this still existing now, or your party is, sorry for this very strong word you started, became only a parliamentary section, and this is your main task now, and all this the new society is not living now.
Yes, this is a very good question, but the politics of Nepal has now completely changed. Yes, we were once with guns and weapons, but nowadays we are not in favor of any kind of armed force against the government or against the regime, political regime. So there is no weapons. There is a very peaceful kind of means of competition, struggle. Means of struggle is a peaceful competition through the election. That is the means of struggle, rather than the struggling with weapons. So this is already officially and completely this has been changed.
And some form of self-government in the municipalities.
Oh no,
The villages.
There is no some such kind of governments. But the tasks or the decisions that has been made by then autonomous government or then parallel government that has been endorsed by the government after the constitution,
So
by law.
All these new ideas now fixed now in the constitution, yes?
Yes, that has been endorsed, that has been taken as a part of the States Act, by the government after the new constitution. What decision regarding to the let us talk about the land. The one land is transformed to the next owner. That has been done by the parallel government or the autonomous government of that time. And that was not registered to the world governments or the parliamentary parties government that time. But by we have make a conclusion or the make a new decision that the new governments or the parallel governments, such kind of decision will be taken as a decision of then government. So that has been legalized. I mean,
You have legalized this big taking loans. Poor peasants take land.
Yeah.
I think it was very big, 50,000 hectares. So this is legalized.
Yeah.
So
almost all.
So in the reality, poor peasants in the 90s and the beginning of 2000 became some land, and they till now have this land. Nobody will.
They have, and that has been legalized.
Oh.
One is that.
So this is really progress.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is
for
a
poor
progress.
people.
Yeah, and for the doctors, as you talked, like barefooted doctor.
Yes.
A hospital has been made on such kind of localities, and there is a big hospitals with several beds nowadays. you know.
New hospitals?
Yeah, new hospitals, completely new hospitals on the such kind of localities. So they will not, you know, roam around, like, walk around to the publics as before, but they stay in a, hospital as a certain spot, and all the, local villages will come there, and there is a community hospitals, these days. So that has been done. And for the schools, there were some schools also by then, party, they were called New Democratic Schools, schools for the New Democratic Education, that has been, transformed to the, according to the new law of the government. These schools were not closed, but they were transformed to the government's school. So this is the progress. And there is a not so kind of dissatisfaction among the people.
But
due to this, no dissatisfaction. No.
Not dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
I mean, the main dissatisfaction is that the level of income is low.
Yes.
$100, $200 a month
Yeah.
is really low.
Yeah. This is.
And for example, I speak with some people on the street that told me they must give $200 a year for a good school for the child. And I think this is for if you have a communist government, you must change it. You must do something in this direction. I mean, the hospitals and the education is the main task, I think.
Well, yeah, you are right. You are right, and we are just trying to do some kind of new things, especially on education and the, healthcare service, And for that, in Nepal, if you look, there are many, private schools, especially focused on the, such kind of urban areas, and many, parts of Nepal is, covered by the rural areas, and there are, very poor, government or community schools are there, The production, especially the new students or the new workers who have to, go to the employment, the government schools production will not be, introduced as the new workers, because they have a very low quality there. So this is a problem here. For that, the government of Nepal is trying to, do better to the government or the public schools, rather than to eradicate, rather than to shut down all the private schools. So this is the one fact.
You don't want to shut down this private schools?
Not right now, but we want to decrease down the number of such kind of schools. They are here around the urban areas, So we just want to squeeze it.
If you have no really good industry which bring money in the country, it's difficult to spend money for social things.
Oh yes, yeah.
You activate the industries one of the main tasks, I think, for you.
Yes, yeah, you are right. You are right, and for that I have already mentioned that agriculture, tourism, and hydroelectricity are some areas that has been prioritized by the government to be invested by the foreign investors.